Welcome back to another wonderful episode of the Any Given Day podcast. I'm Zach. That's Hunter. We're going to hop right into it today. So, obviously, as you guys know, we're more of a college football podcast, but this is the one time of the year where we cross the line a little bit and start talking about the No Fun League. Because a lot of our favorite players are getting drafted into the No Fun League where their careers will be ruined by
Yep.
bogus rules and a bogus commissioner.
Okay, speaking of, I'll say this.
Mm-hmm.
I think of the big three sports, and that's not a knock on hockey,
Sure.
but of the NBA, the MLB, and the NFL, I'll actually go and throw out a hot take. I think Roger Goodell is the best commissioner of the three.
Yes, which is saying something.
I believe Rob Manfred's the worst of them.
Yes.
Just because in the blackouts, dude. Please.
Yeah.
And then Adam Silver, I believe, has let the Players Association for the NBA have too much power. Right?
Yes. Listen, Roger Goodell is probably the best commissioner out of the big three, which is saying something because he's not the best commissioner overall wise. But
Yeah.
not the point. As most of you know, the draft happened last Thursday.
Yeah.
We've had a week to think about it. So we're going to be giving our biggest winners of the draft, biggest losers of the draft, our biggest reach, and our biggest faller of the draft. We'll alternate it back and forth. We're going to start with the biggest winner of the draft. I'll start us off. I have the Philadelphia Eagles being the biggest winner of the draft, getting Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean in the first and second round, arguably two of the best corners in the draft.
Okay. I'll go ahead and say it. I think the winner of the draft is the Steelers. They revamped the offensive line with 3 of their first 5 picks. I feel like they got a really good steal in Peyton Wilson. I think he's the best linebacker, and they got him right at the end of the 3rd round. I get the medicals and stuff. Some people are concerned because he was basically played the last year or two without an ACL in one of his legs. But at the same time, he's played the last 2 years without an ACL.
Right.
So, dude's a freak athlete. I truly do believe that. So, I think they've done enough to be considered for winners of the draft, especially with the revamped O-line, with Arthur Smith coming in and calling the plays, and Mike Tomlin keeping him in check. You'll hopefully only get the good out of Arthur Smith, and you won't have Arthur Smith overthinking things and trying to outthink everyone by outthinking himself. So, revamped O-line, Najee Harris. Don't get why they declined his 50-year option today, but it's what it is. It happens.
Yeah.
They'll get it figured out. So, yeah, Steelers are my biggest winner. Do you want me to go into the biggest loser, or do you want to kick it off?
Go for it. Yeah, go ahead. Shoot.
So the Philadelphia Eagles were your biggest winner, right?
Uh-huh.
The Dallas Cowboys in the same division were my biggest loser. Because at the end of the day, yeah, did they add some depth to their O-line and their D-line? Yeah, sure. But you know the one thing they needed that they didn't draft at all?
Running back?
A quality running back. And yeah. I honestly believe that you still had a ton of quality running backs on the board in the 6th and 7th round. Jason McClellan out of Alabama. Audric Estime fell to the 5th round out of Notre Dame. Kendall Milton out of Georgia went undrafted and signed with the Philadelphia Eagles. And
Yeah.
I think that will be something they come to regret. Let alone the fact that you still have to deal with Saquon Barkley. But you don't go and draft a running back because that geriatric old man is still in charge for some reason. Okay. Jerry Jones thinks he's smart. I mean, he does.
Yeah.
But they've been on the downside since he let go Jimmy Johnson. So,
Yeah.
and what did they do? They re-sign Ezekiel Elliott to a 1-year deal. Why?
Yeah. I mean, he's not the player he once was,
No,
obviously.
he's not.
Um, I don't get it. Which ironically is the reason that my biggest loser of the draft is also the Dallas Cowboys. It's made no sense. Ironically, I was looking at the Raiders or the Falcons at first. Raiders because they needed a quarterback, didn't get a quarterback, but it can
Things
be
kind of get.
forgiven. There wasn't really a good quarterback other than Spencer Rattler, and obviously there were issues, whether they were warranted or not,
Mm-hmm.
that he fell in the draft.
We'll get a bit more into that towards the end of the
Yeah,
podcast because that kind of ties into something I've got to say.
yeah, but yeah. I looked at the Raiders. I looked at the Falcons because I feel like they should be in win now mode, and I felt like they drafted a little bit more for. They drafted a little bit more like a rebuilding team than a team that just spent $100 million on a quarterback. But I had a week to think on it. I don't hate it as much as I did on draft night.
Oh, you were pissed.
Yeah, I was pissed on draft night.
Oh, y'all should have seen the text. Y'all should have seen the
I
text.
was
Oh,
pissed on draft night.
and I
But
kind of
then I
agree.
saw the Cowboys, and I went, okay, that's the biggest loser of the draft. That is the dumbest pick. That's the dumbest
Aren't
draft
they
I've
always
seen.
the losers though?
The Cowboys are always the losers of everything, not just the draft.
And I want to go ahead and send out a quick apology to my buddy Harrison Reno, diehard Dallas fan. Even he agrees Jerry has to get out of the front office.
Yeah, I'm sorry, buddy.
If Jerry would hire a competent general manager and a competent coach, and would
He's
just be
got the
like, "Hey,
money.
here's the money. Here's the
Yeah,
money." That's all you gotta do. Give them the money. Hire a competent general manager, a competent head coach,
yep,
and they will get the guys for you. You have the money to do it. Just let them do it. You're not getting younger.
yeah. They got the money for it. He's got the money to field an amazing team. He doesn't have the brain, apparently. Moving on, my biggest reach of the draft, and I felt like this was obvious. Ricky Pearsall
Oh,
going in the first round to the San Francisco 49ers. Is he a bad wide receiver? No. Do I think he's a first round wide receiver or a better wide receiver than some of the wide receivers he was taken in front of? Absolutely not. AD Mitchell should have went before him.
Xavier
Vlad
Leggett.
McConkey probably should have went before him. Xavier Worthy should have. Well, Xavier Worthy did go before him because the Chiefs
Xavier
traded
Leggett.
up, and Xavier Leggett should have went before him. There's a Johnny Wilson I thought could have went before him. Keon Coleman I felt like could have went before him. Johnny Wilson maybe not, but Keon Coleman I definitely feel like could have went before him. There's just a bunch of wide receivers I felt like could have went before him that didn't. I guess it fits what the 49ers are trying to do and what they needed, but I didn't like the pick, personally.
Yeah. And you spoke about Keon Coleman. Yes, we're Georgia fans. No, we're not going to talk about that because it's whatever at this point.
Yeah.
He can believe what he wants to believe, and we'll leave it at that. Doesn't change facts.
Nope.
So I was actually deeper in the. I was earlier in the first round for my biggest reach.
Really?
Bo Nix. I just so of the available quarterbacks at that point, was he the best available? Maybe.
I
And
mean,
the reason I say maybe is because I still think he should have been a second rounder. Mid to late
yeah,
second rounder. And I would even go so far to make the argument that if Jordan Travis doesn't break his leg, Jordan Travis is a better quarterback than him.
yeah. Um, I looked at him and I thought about him, but for the same reasoning that I am not as mad as I was about the Falcons taking Penix is the reason I didn't pick Bo Nix as my biggest reach. Because if you read the board and read the room, quarterbacks were flying off the board, and if you didn't get Bo Nix there and the Raiders take Bo Nix,
Yep.
you're stuck with maybe Spencer Rattler in the second round, and he was dropping down the board. Nobody really wanted him for reasons we'll talk about later.
Yep.
So I felt like if they wanted a quarterback and they felt like they needed Bo Nix, or they felt like they needed a quarterback, Bo Nix was the obvious option, obviously because Jordan Travis is hurt, and there isn't another guy on the board other than Spencer Rattler that isn't coming off of a huge injury. So
Yeah.
that's the reason I didn't pick Bo Nix as my biggest reach.
Yeah. I Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I can see that for sure. And another thing before people say, "Well, what about Ruka Roro and all that?" The only reason I did not put that as a big reach is because I want, if in a year or two he flames out, and which a lot of people are fully expecting,
Right.
then yes, I can definitely see that. But I'm curious to see what the Falcons do with him. I don't think they're going to have him line up on the interior of the defensive line. I think he's going to be a defensive end. I think they're kicking him out to defensive end, and if he gets kicked out to there, that's
Right.
interesting to me. Okay, and that's the reason why I didn't call it a reach. I'm interested to see it first.
Right.
So we'll see. It could end up being by the end of this next football season. Yes, it was a complete overreach, or it could actually be we're all proven wrong. But we'll see. So the biggest fallers or the biggest steals, if you will, this was a tough one for me because I was telling you beforehand, I had like 4, 5, 6 guys that I was just like, how are these guys falling, right?
Right.
And so I'll name them off real quick. Jamari Thrash out of Louisville, right?
Yep.
The Cleveland Browns got him in the 5th round at pick 156. I thought he could have easily gone 3rd round, mid 3rd round probably. Cedric Van Granger out of Georgia went 5th round, pick 141. I thought he could have been probably late 3rd, early 4th round pick. So the fact he fell to the 5th. Then you've got the Peyton Wilson. We've already talked about him. I thought he was late 2nd, early 3rd. He fell to the second to last pick of the 3rd round. And then I think flipping Baltimore got 2 of them in Devontae Walker out of North Carolina and TJ Tampa out of Iowa State, the cornerback. I viewed by the time the 2nd round rolled around and Cooper DeJean was finally off the board to the Eagles at 12. What was it? What was the pick he was off at? I was fixing to say 25, and I was like, no, that was the Packers. I was kind of expecting him to go to the Packers, I'll be honest.
Yeah. He went at pick 40.
Pick 40. So by the time he's off the board, I fully believe that TJ Tampa was the best cornerback on the board, and he fell to the Baltimore Ravens in the 4th round. I think they got a steal.
Yeah.
Devontae Walker, I was thinking 3rd round for him. He didn't fall as far, but I guess based on on total like value, I'd say Baltimore probably got the biggest steal.
That's fair. My biggest follower was Cooper DeJean. I mean, we were going in the draft talking about him being a top 20 pick, and he falls all the way to 40.
Yeah.
Obviously one of the best corners in the draft to fall all the way to the 40. That's crazy. But yeah.
Is what it is.
That's it for our that's it for our NFL draft takeaways. Moving on to some very exciting news. Finally got some news about college football 25 and the cover athletes. They will have multiple cover athletes this year, all from power conferences. And from what we've read, there will only be one player per position, so there's only going to be one quarterback, one running back, depending on what they pick. So I've made a little bit of a list. I believe you have two of who we think could possibly be the cover athletes going into this year. I will read through my list, then I'll let you read through your list, and we will discuss. At quarterback, for the quarterbacks I think could possibly be cover athletes, I got Shedeur Sanders or Quinn Ewers. I don't love the fact that Shedeur Sanders could be a quarterback cover athlete. Do I think he deserves it? No.
Mm-mm.
But he's a big name, big flashy name. I definitely think he'll be in contention. For running backs, I got Trevion Henderson from Ohio State. I know he was hurt last year, but big name. And there weren't many running backs that I could really think of. And I got Ollie Gordon. Obviously, had a huge year last year. I think he definitely deserves it. Wide receivers, I got Luther Burden from Missouri or Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. I think those are really two of the biggest wide receivers going into the year this year. And for defensive backs, I have Malachi Starks from Georgia or Caleb Downs from Ohio State. Those are the guys I think that could possibly be cover athletes this year.
I'll say that I couldn't agree with you more, honestly, on all of them. But if I had to pick a final three, they're gonna put Shedeur on the deadgum cover, and he doesn't. He doesn't deserve it.
No.
If they're going to do multiple positions, and they're only going to do one player per conference, it needs to be Ollie Gordon. So I'm going to say Ollie Gordon should be on there for the running back. Emeka Egbuka is kind of the next guy up over at Ohio State, wide receiver wise, so it should in theory be him. And then quarterback, it should be Quinn Ewers out of the SEC. I think the only other quarterback that could realistically replace him would be Carson Beck, because I think they're 1A, 1B in the SEC right now. And we'll really see in October who's the better one of the two. But I think they're the two best quarterbacks in this draft class. So
yeah,
not everyone agrees with me though, but we'll get to that as well.
Yep.
Not much else to say.
All right.
Excited for it.
Moving on to some transfer portal news. Not much this week, but true freshman, not even really a true freshman. I guess he's only been enrolled for like one semester. Yeah, Alabama safety Peyton Woodyard has entered the transfer portal.
With a do not contact tag, too.
Yeah.
So he already knows where he's going, apparently.
Yeah, which, as much as we don't want to admit, probably means tampering, but
more than likely.
Who knows? Yeah. Next up, quarterback, everybody's favorite quarterback, General Booty from Oklahoma has also entered the portal. Yeah, I don't think he was going to get much playing time at
No,
Oklahoma.
Jackson Arnold.
Anyways, yeah, so I don't blame him.
Yeah. Which funny story about that. So General Booty is his actual name. I was telling Dad about this earlier today, and you know my dad. He's like, "That's got to be some nickname." I'm like, "Nope, that's his actual name,
Nope.
General Booty." So that's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Just could not believe it. But yeah, funny.
It's crazy. All right. So obviously a little while ago, the NFL was trying to tell the University of Houston to basically screw off and stop using their Oilers throwback kind of paying homage jerseys to the Houston Oilers. The University of Houston has responded and told the NFL to screw off themselves.
Not legitimately, but
Not
it's
legitimately,
basically implied.
but
It's basically implied. Let me
yeah,
move this mic a bit. So
yeah, they're going to continue to use them because it doesn't mention the Oilers. It doesn't have an Oilers logo on it. It is just a powder blue jersey. So
with like Houston on it, and the hilarious thing is, they've even doubled and tripled down and said, "Yeah, no, we're not just going to use it for a football team now. Now we're going to go and have a powder blue and red and white variation for all of our athletics teams. Try and stop us."
Right.
This color has been in Houston longer than it's been in Tennessee. And I love it.
Yeah, I agree.
Go Cougs.
Go Cougs. Up next, Kirby Smart has gotten a 2-year extension with the Rays to once again make him the highest paid coach in college football. Well deserved. Yeah, I think Georgia needed to do something. Make sure he stays there for the rest of his career.
I mean, he already was. Let's face it.
Yeah, but this makes it slightly more official.
Yeah. He's the first ever coach to go and make $13 million a year. So, like we said,
nice.
I think the next highest is Dabo Swinney at $11.5 million. Heck, even Lincoln Riley's getting paid like $11 million a year. So, but yeah, I saw where Peter Burns from the SEC network actually said he's still like he's the highest paid college football coach in history, but at the same time, it still feels like a steal because he's probably, if we're being honest, probably valued at closer to 30 million plus with all the revenue he brings in by being a successful football coach like that. So, I can see it. I can see it.
Yeah, I agree.
Should I take over, I guess, on these next parts?
Go for it.
So, I don't know how many people watch Colin Cowherd or some of these guys, but they were on his podcast earlier today, yesterday, whenever it was. I can't even remember the dude who was with him. He's on Fox on Fox Sports 1 all the time.
Nick Wright.
They were talking about the draft, right? The quarterback class and into that. And that somehow led them into the prospects for the next class. And Colin said that his top 2 prospects in this upcoming class, were Shador Sanders and Cam Ward. I don't, and like I said, we'll get to Shador, his father, and the circus that they are continuing to have up in Boulder here in a minute, but there's no way those 2 are the top prospects. I'm sorry.
Right.
The top prospects are flipping Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers. They forgot about Carson Beck for a minute there, and then they're like, well, apparently he's the top prospect for all these scouts. I don't see it. I mean, he's good. And then Cowherd goes and says, well, he's Georgia good. Look, just say you don't watch college football. Georgia's offense has changed. It's not a run-first offense anymore. I don't believe that Colin Cowherd has watched any football outside of the West Coast collegiately in probably a decade at this point. He does not care for it unless it's the big time games, right? The bowl games. But even then, I don't. There's certain aspects of a quarterback that the NFL scouts will take over a lot of things. Do you have to have the size and the arm? Yes. But the one thing that Carson Beck has over a lot of these guys that the scouts have raved about over and over and over again is in between his ears. His head, like his brain, his IQ, his mental processing ability, his ability to go and make 3 to 4 reads in a split second. And okay, now I need to double back, or okay, here's a safety valve. Or hey, 2's open now. Or do I wait for 4? And he's able to do all those processes at probably more complicated than what I just made it to be in like super quick time. Probably 2 seconds, 2 to 3 seconds. Because that's all the time he's afforded. So the fact that they don't, that Colin and Nick can't see that, I don't know what it is. I really don't. I don't think Shador is a top 2. Like I think talent wise, he'll be the 3rd quarterback off the board, but he's not the top prospect in this class, and no one can convince me otherwise. Don't even get me started on them saying Cam Ward. I just, yeah. And who knows? Yeah. Typically, during the season, you have that one guy that just pops up out of nowhere. And it's like, dadgum, that quarterback could sneak into the first round, or he could end up being a top 20 pick out of nowhere. Maybe that is Cam Ward this year. But he's not one of the top prospects in this class. And you can't convince me otherwise.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better myself, personally. I agree completely.
Like, damn, man. I mean, just yeah, I can't with that. That was stupidity.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Another reason why Deion Sanders probably won't be the top quarterback and is definitely not the top prospect is anyone who watched the draft this past weekend would have seen that Spencer Rattler fell. I mean, this was a guy who was mocked early 3rd, probably.
Yeah, late 2nd, early 3rd.
Yeah, is where he was kind of mocked to, and he fell to the 5th round? 4th or 5th round?
5th or 6th.
Maybe even 5th or 6th. I can't remember. He fell, though. And come to find out, it was from the scouts and the front office execs having seen the footage of the reality show he did back in high school. QB1. So, yeah, and he's 17 at that time. He's grown, he's matured. They've probably sat down and met with him, but at the same time, that painted him in such a bad light that he fell, like, severely. Lost a lot of money, and arguably prestige. I don't really know about that, but he fell. And with the way Shador and his father have been acting, like I can't. I
Right.
I can't. You go a former teammate, a former player for you goes over to the Athletic and says, "Hey, yeah, this is what happened. This is how it happened. By the way, this isn't the first time that we've heard stories of Deion bringing all these players in and going, and they're in the office, right? And he has their coordinator in there with them, or their position coach in there with them, and he will not look them in the eyes, and he will go and he'll just tell the coach, "You tell him," and he'll just look away. I mean, dude, what are you thinking? Like, what is he thinking, Bonner?
Uh, he thinks he's the greatest thing on the planet. Like, listen, my thing is obviously the whole big thing with Athletic came out, this
Mm-hmm.
week, and I'm not going to sit here and act like it doesn't. Stuff like that doesn't happen all over the country with a coach going up to a kid and going, "Listen, I love you. It's nothing about you as a player, as a person. I love you as a person. I just don't see you getting a whole lot of playing time here. I think it's best if you transfer." But it's also not blown up on social media. It's handled in a completely mature, different way than the way it is now. But also, to play devil's advocate, I to be clear, I don't support the way that Deion handles these situations. I think it's
It's a
ridiculous.
reality show.
Yes, but from a player's perspective, right, with this kid that had the whole athletic article situation, if you're at a college, if I'm at a college and I'm a quarterback, and the coach comes up to me and said, "Listen, you're not going to play here. I don't see a future for you here. I think you should transfer." And you go, "You know what? I'm going to stay and I'm going to fight."
He was a defensive back, though.
Oh, is
He
he a
was a
defensive
defensive
back?
back.
I thought he was a
He was a
quarterback.
defensive back. And then Shador came out and said, "I don't even remember this guy. Must have been mid at best."
Either way, if I'm a defensive back at a college, again, I don't agree with the way it was handled. I don't agree with the way Shadur handled it. But if I'm a defensive back and Dion comes up to me and says, "I don't think you're going to play. I think you should transfer." And you go, "You know what? No, I'm going to stay and I'm going to fight it out." And when it doesn't work out, then you go and complain because, "Oh, well, he didn't give me a fair shot." Well, brother, he told you. He told you from the jump that you should transfer and you weren't going to get a whole lot of playing time here. And you said, "You know what? No, I'm going to fight." And I admire that. I admire I think I can, I think I'm good. I think I'm better than the guys in front of me. I think I can win it. But if it doesn't work out, you don't have the right to go and complain and say, "Oh, I didn't get a fair shot," when you knew from the rip he told you should transfer. That's my problem with going and complaining about it. Do I agree with the way Dion handled it? Absolutely not. I think it should have been handled better. I don't love the way that Shadur handled it, and putting it on social media, it does not look
Mm-hmm.
good. It looks like you're being a big crybaby about it. And to go back to the draft with the way everything was handled with Spencer Rattler, that doesn't help.
No, it doesn't.
That does not look good to scouts and to GMs and to owners when you're going on social media and blasting this dude because it doesn't look good to go on social media and blast
No.
dudes because everything you put on social media is there forever. So it's best to just not have social
So,
media as any sort of
yeah.
professional. But
So I want to point
yeah,
out something. Xavier Smith, when he came into this class, when he came up to Boulder with the previous regime, he broke his leg his senior year of high school. When he was
okay.
recouping and rehabbing during that first season, he broke his leg again during rehab. So he
Okay.
never got a fair shot. I will say that openly. He never got a fair shot. Deion didn't try, like it's like he said in the article, Deion didn't try to go and get to know these guys. And from what a lot of these guys have said, especially that freshman class that had just been brought in, they're like, as soon as those 19 transfers came in, it wasn't trying to, oh hey guys, welcome to the team or anything like that. It was immediately us versus them, which is never a good way to handle the locker room. Never. It will never
No.
work. And
No.
then you got Deion out here proclaiming his son's going to be a top 5 pick. I don't see it.
No, I don't see it.
And then you've got, dude, you've got stories of like I was telling the one earlier about how he would not look any of these players he's cutting in the eyes. And the way I was raised, if you're an actual man and you're going to do something like that, you're going to look someone in the eyes when you do it. Because it's the right thing. It's you got to at least treat them respectfully. I mean, I heard a story from a former the dude was I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I feel terrible. He's got his own podcast too. But he's former Alabama assistant coach. Actually had a scholarship over at Auburn. And then Tommy Tuberville got hired as a new Auburn coach. Their previous head coach had gotten fired or left, or I can't remember who it was right before that. Might have been Houston Nutt. Was it Nutt? No. I can't remember. Anyways, Tuberville comes in, calls this kid into the office, handles it poorly, by the way. Tuberville did, right?
Yeah.
Because he apparently he just looked him in the eyes and said, "Look, I got 5 hot shot wide receivers coming in. You're gonna leave, and the only way you're ever gonna step on the field on Auburn's field again is from an opposing team." He ends up transferring to Troy, and yeah, life goes on from there. Was it a terrible way that Tuberville handled it? Yes. But at least he did it one-on-one and looked him in the eyes when he did it. Like, I just, the only thing I can think of for Deion right now is cowardly. Like, I know you can't put 10 toes down anymore and stand on business. You can only put down 8. So just try putting down all 8. Just, dude, it's a freaking clown show up there, man.
Yes. I mean, like I said, I don't agree with the way that Deion or Shador or how any of it has been handled. I have a problem with that completely. I disagree with the way it's handled. It's been handled very, 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 very poorly, and it is very much a clown show. So to backtrack what I was saying, I do not agree at all wholeheartedly with anything that Deion is doing. I think it is handled extremely poorly.
And it's like you said, you were playing devil's advocate. I get that.
I think it is a clown show. And do I think that Deion Sanders is going to be at Colorado next year? After his sons leave Colorado? No.
I give it a year tops.
He will not be at Colorado for a long time. As soon as his kids are gone and Travis Hunter's gone, he does not give a rat's ass, excuse my language, about Colorado or Boulder or the college itself. He is there for himself and for his sons. He does not care about the university at all. So as soon as his kids aren't there, I give it a year before he either retires, moves on to another college program closer to where he actually wants to be, a bigger program, or maybe moves on to the NFL
I'll
as an assistant coach or something with one of his kids.
and that is something that article actually pointed out as well. Apparently, and now granted, this is coming from a jaded player. The only reason I'm prone to believe the things about the not looking them in the eyes and having the other coaches do it for them, and doing it with multiple players in the same room, by the way, is because that's been
Yeah.
corroborated a bunch of times from former players. A bunch.
Right.
I haven't seen this more than I've only seen this the one time. So who knows? But apparently, based off what a former player in the article said, the only names he knows are Travis, Shiloh, and Shador. His boys, right? And then he just refers to everyone else as Deion's kids or Deion's boys, which
Yeah.
is that's oof.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a disaster, and it's only going to get worse. And it in the long run, it's going to end up hurting
Mm-hmm.
his kids in the draft. So
Yeah.
yeah, I remember how excited we were when he got this job.
Oh, we knew it was going to be like this. I just didn't know it would be this
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah, I mean, you knew it was going to be Prime, and Prime was going to do his own thing, but we figured it was just going to be a different way of doing things. He was going to try something that hadn't
Yeah.
been done. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Who knows? And he has taken it to a whole nother ridiculous level.
I just
So,
I can't with it sometimes, man. I mean, fact of the matter is
no.
he also lets his sons go off to some fashion week over in Europe while the rest of the team's having to practice, which is
Yep. Ridiculous.
it's that's prime time, baby. That is prime time.
Yep. That is prime
Just
time.
it is what it is. Anyways, that's all I got. You got anything else? It's late, man.
Yeah, you ain't kidding. Nope, that's it. So, yep, this is bringing the end to another wonderful episode of the Any Given Day podcast. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can stay update with all of our latest content, as we're going to be releasing weekly content heading into the football season. And once football season starts, we'll probably head back to 2 episodes a week, a preview episode and a review episode of that weekend's college football games. So,
Yep.
yeah, we love you, and we will see you later.
Remember, guys, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for more, and don't forget to leave a comment here and there. Helps with the algorithm, all that. And remember, on any given day, Deion will be a clown. Bye.